Hey everybody, Dr. G here. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist and body language expert, and today we're going to be analyzing the behavior and body language of Wade Wilson. Wade Wilson was recently found guilty for the murder of two women that he brutally strangled. Before we get started with this analysis, I wanted to remind you of a couple of things. One, this is not a psychological evaluation of any kind. These are just my opinions. In addition to that, I do want to remind you to like and subscribe if you want to see more content just like this. All right, let's go. What we're going to be looking at today is Wade Wilson's reaction to the penalty phase of his trial. Let's just jump right in.
All right, verdict form.
Now, the first thing you're probably noticing as they're getting the verdict form ready is that he's leaning back. Now, this is an attempt to appear casual. It's an attempt to appear calm. As you can see, he's got his nose in the air. You're going to see a lot more of this. He's leaning back. He's trying to appear calm, but we're going to see there's probably a lot more emotion under the surface than initially meets the eye.
All right, verdict form appears to be in order. We'll let the clerk publish the verdict.
In the circuit court of the
Now, you probably noticed a lot of emotion just then. First thing you see is a heavy swallow. Now, as our mouths dry out, as we're getting more and more anxious, it makes us aware of the different processes going on in our body. So it ends up oftentimes causing us to think about the sensations in our throat, causes us to swallow. So you're seeing him swallowing, which means that he's got a lot of anxiety right now. You're also seeing him look around everywhere. He doesn't know where to put his eyes. There's a lot of anxiety and stress under the surface that he doesn't want to show. Like I said, the leaning back is an attempt to counterbalance how he's feeling, because right now he's probably feeling very intense. But as we're going to talk about with some of the tattoos, that's the last way that he would want you to think that he feels right now, I think.
All right, verdict form appears to be in order. We'll let the clerk publish the verdict.
in the circuit court of the 20th Judicial.
See, there's those deep swallows again. He's starting to blink more. The stress is building and building.
Circuit in Forley County, Florida. Criminal action. State of Florida versus Wade Wilson. Case number.
You can also see his chest moving up and down pretty rapidly, actually. He's taking heavy, deep breaths. The reason we do that is that when our heart pumps harder, when our heart beats faster, it uses up more oxygen. Therefore, we need to breathe heavier. We need to breathe more. So right now, you're seeing somebody who's feeling a tremendous amount of stress, as most people would in a situation like this, but he doesn't want to show it. So some people want you to see how stressed out they are. Some people do not. And some people don't seem to feel much of anything. I've absolutely watched verdicts being read where people seem to feel or experience very little. This does not seem to be the case with him. I think that he's someone that feels very intensely. And right now, as I said before, he's leaning back. He's got his nose in the air. We put our nose in the air to show everybody else that we're better than them, that we're above a certain situation. So he's basically saying, this doesn't affect me. But as we can see, it seems very much to affect him.
State of Florida versus Wade Wilson. Case number 19 CF 568. Jury verdict form, penalty phase. We, the jury.
All right, now you see that little twitch in the corner of his mouth. So they said penalty phase, it's a big swallow, it's a twitch in the corner of his mouth. What this is his contempt. Now, most emotions we see on both sides of the body except for contempt. So when somebody smiles, both sides, frowns, both sides, you get the idea. But when you see this weird little twitch, that is a contemptuous feeling. So he feels contempt that they're getting ready to read him this verdict, that they're getting ready to read him the penalty.
Jury verdict form, penalty phase.
That's the look right there. A one-sided smirk, a quick twitch on his face because the feelings of contempt are so intense. And part of the reason is that he has no control at this point. You got to realize somebody like him is going to absolutely want to be in complete and utter control at any given time. And in this situation right here, when you have a jury member reading something to you and you have no control, that's going to stir up feelings of contempt and probably other feelings as well.
Reasonable doubt that Wade Wilson was previously convicted of a felony and under sentence of imprisonment.
Now, something that's going to be absolutely torturous to him is how long it's taking, because there's a process. The jury has to read through this. They have to read the statement, in essence, that's written down. And so he's not going to like this. He's going to want to just go ahead and get things over with. So he is sitting there. He is simmering. He's struggling to make it through this because he has to sit there and listen, yet he wants an answer quickly. So for somebody like him who's probably impatient, probably impulsive, this is going to be torturous for him, basically.
Or placed on community control or on felony probation? Yes. We, the jury, find unanimously that the state has established.
And as you can see, the deep swallowing again. He also looked at the camera right here. Watch this right here.
We, the jury.
He has a lot of anxiety and he knows it. And I think that he wants to make sure that everybody sees what he wants people to see. I mean, you have to think about the tattoos that he has. He's very big on appearance. You don't get a swastika tattooed on your face without knowing that people are looking at you and thinking about how people are perceiving you. He wants people to be afraid of him. He wants to be intimidating. He wants to control how others feel. And he has no control right now. So knowing he's being recorded, knowing this is taking a while, these are all things that are going to add to his frustration and his stress.
We find unanimously that the state has established beyond a reasonable doubt that Wade Wilson was previously convicted of another capital felony or of a felony involving the use of threat of violence to the person. Yes.
Now, you saw him blink very slowly right there. Now, blinking naturally is very quick. That was very slow, which means it was intentional. Watch this again.
Use of threat of violence to the person. Yes. We, the jury.
So that slow blink, this means that he is giving thought to how he's being perceived. He blinked slowly. He looked at the camera. He's trying to remain calm because I think that that's how he wants to appear to everybody else, that he's calm, that he's above this, that he doesn't care what's being said, that he doesn't care the outcome here, that he is unaffected, which once again does not seem to be the case.
Unanimously find that the state has.
And there was that contempt again. Watch this right here.
Yes, to the person. Yes. We, the jury, unanimously find that.
So we, the jury, unanimously find. Immediately, I think he's preparing himself once again for what's getting ready to be said. He knows it's not going to go his way, but he knows how uncomfortable it's going to feel to have to hear this, to have to listen to this, to have people looking at him when this is being said. And so, once again, there's that contempt right there.
Unanimously find that the state has established beyond a reasonable doubt that the first-degree murder was especially heinous, atrocious, or cruel. Yes. We, the jury, unanimously find that the state has established beyond a reasonable doubt that the first-degree murder was committed in a cold, calculated, and premeditated manner without any pretense of moral or legal justification.
I do think the fact that there's a process, the fact that he has no control, once again, is making him struggle. You see that he doesn't know where to look. He keeps looking around, and then he continues to look back at the camera. He seems to have this pattern of looking around, looking at the camera. There's just so much discomfort right now.
That Wade Wilson should be sentenced to death. As to count 4, first-degree murder, Diane Ruiz. We, the jury, unanimously find that the state has established beyond a reasonable doubt.
And as you can see, he was taking deep breaths, staring straight ahead. After hearing that, trying to process the fact that they had basically said that he's going to get the death penalty. So at that point, he'd been waiting for it. He'd been anticipating it. And then he's trying to manage the feelings that come with that.
Of aggravating factors. We, the jury,
So if you look at the tattoos that he has, obviously there's a couple of swastikas there. The whole goal is to assert mental dominance over people so that when people look at him, they know that he is hateful. They know that he is angry, to go ahead and assert dominance of some kind. If you look at the mouth stitches, what looks to be sewn shut, it's presumably, I assume some of that's probably a throwback to the Joker from The Dark Knight, who had the cuts on his face, and so there's some idea that he's unpredictable, that he's wild. But the point is that with these tattoos, he is trying to wear who he is very much on his face. He wants you to see this. This is the goal of this, is to show you who he is. The goal of this is to make a statement when people look at him. So you got to think about the fact that somebody that has these types of tattoos really is trying to speak to people without saying anything.
jurors vote for the death penalty, your recommendation must be for a penalty of life in prison without the possibility of parole. If 8 or more jurors vote for...
It also looks like he's trying to keep a slight smirk on his face right now. It's a little bit hard to tell, and the fact that there's that tattoo makes it more distracting, but it looks like he's trying to keep a slight smile on his face. Although based on all of the stress he's shown so far, I'm not sure that he actually feels any happiness or that he actually feels any degree of being pleased with anything going on right now. If anything, I think that he's probably very frustrated by the fact that he has no control in this moment. And, once again, you look at his tattoos, those are all about control and controlling how other people feel when they look at him.
For the death penalty, your recommendation must be for the death penalty. We have further considered whether Wade Wilson should be sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole or death. We, the jury, find by a vote of 10-2 that Wade Wilson should be sentenced to death. Dated this 25th day of June, 2024, in Lee County.
Now, right now, to me, after they had said that he should be sentenced to death, he looks to me like he's trying to hide a little bit, because at that point, he's sitting very still. Watch this part right here.
Of 10-2 that Wade Wilson should be sentenced to death. Dated this 25th day of June, 2024, in Lee County, Florida, 4-person, 230.
So oftentimes when we feel danger, when we feel a threat, we tend to freeze. And I think in that moment, that's exactly what's happening. He's freezing. He hears that he's going to be sentenced to death. That makes him freeze. And that's the body responds to that in a very literal way.
Does anybody want the jurors to be polled?
Yes, please.
Okay. Members of the jury, we're going to ask each of you about the jury's decisions that you have just heard. And I'm going to go juror by number. So juror, do you, juror 97, agree that the decisions as read by the clerk accurately reflect what the jury decided? Juror 205, do you agree that the decisions as read by the clerk accurately reflect what the jury decided?
So as he's going through and asking each juror if they in fact made that decision or if they agree with what's being said, you can see he's looking at people one after the other, and this is meant to be intimidating. So now when he's not having to sit and listen to what's getting ready to be read, he was looking around, he was looking anxious. Now he's looking directly at people. From what I can tell, he's probably looking at each juror, trying to be intimidating.
Decided.
Yes.
Juror 101, do you agree that the decisions as read by the clerk accurately reflect what the jury decided?
Yes.
Juror 215, do you agree that the decisions as read by the clerk accurately reflect what the jury decided?
Yes, Your Honor.
Juror,
And this is something I say on a number of videos, but I really want you to consider the kind of person that would commit the types of acts that Wade Wilson did, the kinds of things that he did, the amount of control that he needs, the amount of control that's lost right here is probably almost too much to bear. It's so significant for somebody like this to be on the receiving end of having no control and having people saying in a very direct way, yes, I believe that this person should be sentenced to death.
that the decisions as read by the clerk accurately reflect what the jury decided?
Yes, sir.
Juror 315, do you agree that the decisions as read by the clerk accurately reflect what the jury?
And as you can see, he's only moving his eyes rather than moving his whole head and looking at people because he wants to give off an air of nonchalance. He wants to make it seem like he doesn't really care, but also wants to seem intimidating. So his style of doing this, his style of sitting still and then staring at people or only using his eyes to look, is really a way to appear calm.
309, do you agree that the decisions as read by the clerk accurately reflect what the jury decided? Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to thank you for your time and consideration of this case. I also wish to advise you of some very special privileges enjoyed by jurors. With that, we thank you again for your service. Gather your belongings, make sure you don't leave anything in the jury room, and the bailiff will escort you out. You are discharged.
All right.
Now, as you can see, he turns to actually face the jury a little bit. He's keeping his chest open, basically saying, I don't feel threatened by you. I'm going to stay open and I don't need to protect myself from you. He's also got his thumbs tucked into his pants, which in some ways is to show that he's feeling casual. It's an attempt to try to appear nonchalant about what's going on. But as he's facing the jury, it's meant to both not only look nonchalant, but also to look intimidating. The idea of facing them, the idea of looking at them. I mean, you really have to consider the fact that this is someone who has literal visible swastikas tattooed on his face and on his head. The goal of intimidating people is clear for him. That's obviously something that's important to him and something that he wants to do. And I really think that he's trying to do that right now.
All right, please be seated. All right. What says the state in regards to sentencing? I know we have to have a spin.
And look how wide open his legs are right now. Now, part of the reason we do this is to assert dominance, is to show I can take up as much space as humanly possible. I'm going to show no deference to the court. I'm going to be as big as I can be because I'm important and I can take up whatever room I want.
Spencer hearing.
You need to go ahead and...
So we'll go ahead and stop here. Today we saw somebody who seemed to really want to give off the impression that they were feeling calm, that they were above everything going on around them, that they weren't intimidated by the things happening. But at the same time, it appeared at times that he wanted to intimidate. He wanted to scare the jury, I'm guessing. He wanted to feel powerful in those moments because this, in a very real way, is a situation where he doesn't have any power. Hopefully this is helping you better understand some of the behavior and the body language that we saw today. If you have any other thoughts, please let me know in the comments below. And if there are other situations, other trials, anything else you want me to analyze, please let me know. Last thing before we get finished up is I do want to remind you to like and subscribe if you want to see more content just like this. All right, thanks for watching.